Hello and welcome to another field edition of the Kemetic How-To Guide for Egyptian Pagan and Kemetic practitioners. Today we're going to talk about plants that were grown in ancient Egypt that you can oftentimes grow right in your own backyard. And we'll start with papyrus. Cyperus papyrus, which is the scientific name, it is a tropical plant. You can order these from places like, I got this one from Florida Hill Nursery. You go on eBay, they sell you a small plant, they ship it to you priority mail, and this one started out only about yay tall, and as you can see now it's grown to be a little taller than I am in the pot. And it's very interesting to see the real plant versus the artwork that we're used to seeing in tomb paintings. Of course, the thing to remember in tomb paintings, they're painting pictures of an entire marsh full of papyrus instead of just one plant in a pot. Papyrus, when it comes to taking care of it, you can't really overwater it. Its natural habitat is along the riverbank. So actually the best thing to do is get a pot with no holes in the bottom, like what I have here. And another thing I've noticed is that the roots are very vigorous on these things. If you have a hole in the bottom, the roots will grow out of it, and you'll pick it up and be like, you know, what's coming out of the bottom of this thing? I thought there was a string stuck to the bottom of the pot on my last one. And I have to say my last one because the other problem, or a challenge, you know, I could say, with papyrus is that being a tropical plant, its bottom threshold of tolerance is only 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if your temperatures drop below that, you need to bring it inside. But papyrus needs lots of water, lots of sun, so overwintering them is a real trick. The last one that I had managed to make it till about the end of January and finally gave up. So if you have access to a hot house, you know, or greenhouse, that would help. They're actually, one of my viewers in England managed to nurse one through the wintertime, and you know, if you've got some tips for us on how to do that, please share them with us. But what's very interesting about it is the stalks are kind of triangular, and I actually did take some stalks of papyrus from a previous plant and try to cut the pith to make paper. What was interesting though is as the paper dried, the strips shrank, and so instead of having a flat sheet of paper, it looked more like something with holes in it, which is kind of interesting. So there's some kind of a trick to how they did that. Water lilies, of course, are another plant that were well known in ancient Egypt. We call them the blue lotus, but the plant that you see so often in offering scenes and tomb paintings is Egyptian blue lily, Nymphaea cerulea. It's a tropical lily. Like papyrus, it can't tolerate the cold. You can actually buy seeds for Egyptian blue lily. Don't bother with those. It's very difficult to get them to germinate. You can also buy actual plants, but good luck. Those are about $50 a piece if you can find them. They're in very much a high demand. This here is not a tropical lily, it is a hardy lily. Those are very easy to grow. You can buy them, you know, at big box stores like, you know, Walmart or Lowe's, and they can overwinter very easily. Really all you have to do is just, you know, put them in the pot, put them in, you know, a greenhouse or someplace where they can stay over the winter. As long as it doesn't freeze solid, they're okay. Just give them fresh water in the springtime and they're good to go. The other thing you have to worry about if you're going to try and grow water lilies, this is in a large pot here, it's going to attract mosquitoes. So the best thing to do really is to get, they have these things called mosquito dunks. You put it in there and there's a natural bacteria that will kill the mosquito larvae, but it won't harm the plants or any animals that come to drink from it. This particular pot has become very popular with the local bees and the local cardinals, so they really like this. Another trick that I've tried, but I wouldn't recommend it, is putting vegetable oil or some kind of oil on the surface of the water. That will kill the mosquitoes, but the plants don't seem to like it. The water lily here it's not as healthy as it was before I tried that, so I'm going to have to clean the pot out for this one. You learn as much from your mistakes as you do from the things that you get right. Another plant that is mentioned sometimes in floral offerings, archaeologists call it cornflowers, but another name for this particular flower is Bachelor button. And some of the floral collars that were buried with Tutankhamun, in all of the different arrangements, you had lotus petals and other things like that, but there were also blue cornflowers or bachelor buttons. These guys here are just about to bloom. Let's see, there we go. And they have, unfortunately, this thing has only bloomed once so far this summer. Last year, by this time, it had been blooming prolifically, but each summer is different. That's the thing when it comes to trying to grow anything, really. You have to keep in mind the conditions. Right now, we're in the end of an El Nino cycle, and so we had a lot of rain, and that might have had an effect on, the growth rate for these guys. Say hi to the pets. Hello, duckies. There's Indiana and Tenchi and Yotsuba. Hi, guys. Tell our audience hello. A common vegetable that was grown in ancient times, and if you look very closely on paintings that have the plates full of offerings, you can see, in addition to the bread and the grapes and things like that, you can actually see little cucumbers. And this behind me is a whole trellis full of cucumbers. Speaking of the El Nino rains that we had, that really got these guys to take off, because they're actually growing over my head, and there's a whole trellis up here, and they've just taken over. So cucumbers like a lot of water, and especially as they're developing their fruit. And I should have an example. There we are, fresh off the vine, cucumber. And of course, the type that they would have had in ancient times, it would not have been identical to the cultivars, the types of fruit that we grow today, but it's part of the same species, part of the same family. Melons are also related to cucumbers. Here's something interesting about them that I did not know until I started trying to grow them. These plants actually have male and female flowers, and when they first start producing, all of the flowers are male. It takes them a couple of weeks to start getting the female flowers, and you can tell those because they have little tiny pre-cucumbers on the end of them. Here's an example of a female flower, and this one has probably been pollinated. The flower is starting to dry up, and you can see the tiny little fruit on it. If this thing had not been fertilized, it would just shrink and wither away, but since it is going to grow, it'll end up looking more like, here we are. Here's one that is just starting to grow right here. Speaking of things that are region specific, and learning from your mistakes as well as the things that grow well, here is a grapevine, and this was purchased from, I think it was Home Depot. This is a Black Monica seedless grape, and as a friend of mine who has studied horticulture, okay, we'll let the traffic go by. As a friend of mine who studied horticulture explained, varieties like Black Monica seedless do not do well in the southern United States because it's too humid and too wet. Down here, the best kinds of grapes to grow are actually muscadines, which are native breed, I believe a native species to the United States. The Egyptians, of course, had grapes, but they would have been vinifera, related more closely to European grapes. And actually, I believe things like Black Monica seedless here, which is a modern cultivar. But if you live out west or perhaps up north, someplace that's a little less humid, you'll have better luck with these guys, because as you can see, the leaves really just have not taken off. Kind of depressing, isn't it? And especially because not just the fruit are edible, you can also eat the leaves. If you've ever had grape leaves at a Greek or Lebanese restaurant, this is what they use when they're doing well. And I saved the best for last. Behind me here is a fig tree. And the Egyptians had two types of fig trees. One was called the sycamore fig, and that one was especially sacred to Hathor. One of her titles was Lady of the Sycamore. Sycamore figs, that particular type of fig is actually fertilized by wasps, and you have to, as you harvest the fruit, you have to cut them open so that the wasp can get out, which sounds kind of creepy to me. But the other kind of fig is closely related to types that we have here in the United States, and this is a cultivar called Celeste fig. You can find out about the different kinds by going online. Any gardening question you have, Google it. Somebody's probably got a post somewhere about it. You could tell, I found out that this was a Celeste fig because of the color of the fruit. They turn this nice bronze color when they're ripe. Figs are interesting because they don't continue to ripen after you pick them like a lot of other fruit, which means you have to leave them on the tree if you want them to get fully ripe. Problem is, that means you're competing with the birds, the squirrels in my case. Those little furry so-and-sos love these things. I'm chasing them out of here all the time. And what's interesting is the ancient Egyptians, sometimes you'll see pictures of birds in the trees, and you know, one of their symbols that meant something bad was a small bird, and it may have been because they had to worry about birds trying to steal their fruit. Another interesting thing, of course, figs are a favorite of Jehuti, and also they're included in the standardized offering liturgy for the dead. It was part of the funeral process, and when, of course, these funerary lists involved a lot of puns. They would say, you know, here is such and such, which also represents, you know, something that sounded the same in the Egyptian language. Figs were referred to as the breasts of Horus, and that seems kind of strange until you notice, for one, figs put out, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, but they put out a latex, a milky kind of sap. So there's one connection right there. Incidentally, that fig latex is a skin irritant, and the leaves have it too. I have a cousin who, when I told him about that, he said, oh, that's why when I would climb into the fig tree, my skin would always itch afterwards. And it also makes me wonder, why on earth were Adam and Eve using fig leaves to cover themselves? Wouldn't that itch? But getting back to the funerary liturgy, these are the breasts of Horus. And when you think about it, nipples maybe? Again, you have to put on your dirty thinking cap, or what we would consider a dirty thinking cap. The Egyptians were like, oh, well, it's fairly obvious. What's the big deal? But, so fig trees had various associations, and they were, you know, very positive thing because, hey, it's a fruit tree, it's food, and also shade. What's interesting is I had a neighbor tell me that it's good luck to move into a house with a fig tree in the backyard, which is exactly what happened here. We moved in early August, and there were one or two figs still clinging to the top branches, but the birds got them very quickly. So one of the things that you can do, we've tried all sorts of things to keep birds and squirrels out of the tree. Hanging CDs works for a little while. The shininess will scare them away. Plastic owls work for a little while. Then they figure out, unless you move it, oh, hey, you know, it's fake. I have come to this fig tree and found squirrels sitting next to the plastic owl eating figs. So figured out, okay, that wasn't working. The best thing for me is to take a paper or a plastic bag and just kind of drape it over the fruit so they can't see it, and that gives it a chance to ripen and you can pick it before the critters get to it. And here's another view of the garden from the front. This has taken me a couple of years to really get it going well. But these are just a few ideas of things that were grown in ancient times that we still grow today. And there are several others. Cantaloupe, which does grow well in the south. I have not had any luck with melons as yet, but it's one of those things you just keep trying and keep Googling if you're trying to grow something and seem to be stuck. People in other regions would have other options. Almonds were known to the Middle East, olives. Those are things that do well in a drier climate. Actually, the West Coast, California in particular, is very similar in climate to the Mediterranean. And so there are a lot of things that grow there. A lot of medjool dates, if you buy them in the store, they actually come from California. They don't come from the Middle East. Although, given the situation with the chronic drought in California right now, it'll be interesting to see, how much of that keeps going. That could be, a whole other discussion. But hopefully this will give you some ideas and some things to consider. There's lots of bugs out here too. If you decide to try growing your own Egyptian-themed garden. So, with those ideas in mind, for the Kemetic How-To Guide, this is Sharon wishing you Senebti.